to this information event. Allow me to share my screen, and then we will kick off with some introductions. So a very, very warm welcome to everybody. My name is Miranda Cromfley. I am the current programme director, along with Kerry, who's here for the MSc Health Professions Education. And I'm also one of the programme directors, along with Becky and Kerry, who are here, and Andrew Wilson, who couldn't be with us tonight, for the MSc Education for Health Professionals programme, which you have joined to hear more about. I will also introduce my two co-hosts, Kerry and Becky, and then I will kick off telling you a little bit about the event and then a little bit about the programme. Kerry, over to you.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Miranda. So I'm Kerry Calvo. I'm also one of the programme co-directors for the new MSc Education for Health Professionals. And my background is as a GP clinically, and I have particular interests in curriculum design, inclusive pedagogy, and supporting the teaching of clinical reasoning as some of my interests. So those are things that I can talk to people about if you're interested, if you want to ask questions about those things. Becky, over to you.
Thank you. So my name's Becky Selman. I'm Joint Head of Education at the Royal College of Physicians, and I'm going to be one of the 4 programme directors on this new programme. And my background is entirely educational, though I've been working in medical education for a number of years now. So I'm particularly interested in, sort of teaching, educational theories, but I also enjoy kind of work on leadership and quality improvement and so on. So looking forward to telling you about this programme.
Fantastic. Thank you both. So a very, very warm welcome to everybody, and a big, big thank you for your interest in this master's programme. Kerry and Becky and I are really excited to present the new MSc for Education and Health Professionals. It's a new programme, but in reality, it's evolved from 2 existing programmes that have been long established, tried and tested for many years. And this new programme builds, we hope, on the best components of the established programmes, combined with a curriculum review done in partnership with students to create this new academically robust and exciting curriculum that combines this academic robustness and an opportunity to support people to engage with academic literature with the need for practical development in education and leadership skills in the health professions, in the context of what we might say is a very rapidly evolving healthcare setting for wherever you're working in the UK or beyond. Before we kick off, I would say that the webinar is recorded. Also, during the question and answer session at the end, you're very welcome to unmute and tell us your questions. So we're going to make it possible for people to actually speak so that we can hear you and have a bit of dialogue back and forth. So we'll have a presentation first, and then we'll move to the Q&A session. However, you don't have to speak to ask a question. You can write your questions in the Q&A box at any time, and then we'll come to answer them in the second half of the event. So very happy to accumulate some questions while we're talking. Do feel free to pop your question into the box as it comes to mind as we're speaking. So, we've already covered that. So, why would you choose the MSc Education for Health Professionals? Well, we are delivering it. It's going to be delivered by UCL in partnership with the Royal College of Physicians. So it's going to be exceptional quality of education, building on established programmes for many years from 2 world-class institutions with a very strong track record and reputation in health professions education. But with that new twist of having had a curriculum review, working with students to understand what works for students, especially in this new sort of online environment. So that's kind of a really, really big advantage that we're very excited about. The kind of, the innovative nature of it, combining that kind of what works in an established way, combined with kind of letting go of the old traditions that aren't working so well in the new context. The most useful thing that I think about this program that is tailored to people's needs is the flexible nature. So it's an online program. So actually you can join if you've got a whole day set aside as study leave and you're at home comfortably, or you can actually join, hopefully being able to fit things in and amongst perhaps clinical commitments that you weren't able to move. For example, in lunch breaks or taking some time at the beginning of the end of the day without having to commute first. We also have a mixture of it says here are synchronous and asynchronous activities. So that would be live tutorials and study days and half days versus also having self-directed activities online. So we use a virtual learning environment called Moodle, where you can do self-directed activities, reading, and other exercises and answering questions online in your own time. The other advantage is that even the live tutorials, as long as we have a critical mass of people attend and it's not just sort of ending up being a one-to-one tutorial, and as long as it's not too sensitive of a topic, which is quite rare, we usually record. So that increases the flexibility because if actually your study leave, God forbid, gets cancelled at the last minute and you can't attend a live tutorial, you can watch a recording back and attend that way. So the flexibility is paramount because we absolutely recognise that people are very motivated to do their master's study, but also very, very busy with their clinical commitments, with personal commitments, and can't always have control over the time in the way that people in other fields perhaps can. The pathway is also tailored to your needs. So it is a flexible modular program. We have one core module, we'll see it a bit later, but actually you're able to make choices to what you study according to your interests. You're also able to have post-enrollment specialisms, which Becky will talk about a bit more shortly, which allow you to have the degree title, which illustrates your specialist area of interest. So you get basically a subspecialty expertise with that as well. It's entirely online, but we also recognize that some people really do prioritize collaboration and networking on their programs. So we make absolute provision for that to happen. We use up-to-date, cutting-edge techniques for online attendance. We have a really strong digital education team at UCL that supports us to use the latest technology and educationally informed techniques to make sure that we do get people to collaborate and work with other students in the online environment, and support for careers as well, because at the end of the day, people are often doing a master's because they want to develop a portfolio career. They might want to apply for a role in education. So these things we know are important to students from our consultation, and we have absolutely foregrounded in the new programme. People doing who have done the two master's programs that we currently offer in the past, so our alumni have gone on to do roles in clinical teaching, such as supervision roles, formal preceptorship or mentoring roles, practice development nurse roles. So these are all actual things that actual students have gone on to do. They've gone on to be able to apply for and take on formal education leadership roles, such as simulation lead, trust education lead, curriculum lead. And some people go on to do roles in academia. So some people go on to do a PhD or a doctorate in education. Some people use their certificate or their diploma or their master's to apply for a formal tutoring or lecturing role. And that can be alongside being a clinical academic. Actually, people can have an education academic role as well. The other thing that's really close to our hearts is the ethos of the programme. So this is founded on a strong emphasis on supportiveness. So the supportiveness is exemplified in the fact that students can study at their own pace alongside clinical work and other commitments, whilst developing strong collaborative networks with peers. So many of the tutors on this programme are doing or have done postgraduate study whilst working full time, and we know what it's like. Many of us have a clinical background and have done a master's whilst working clinically and know what that's like. And so the supportiveness comes from experience and empathy and is really genuine. And we work very hard to make sure that we support students to navigate their studies in a way that works for them in balance with all their other commitments. The collaborative ethos is really, really strong as well for us. And the way that we run our live and our online learning activities really kind of works to meet that ethos. The other thing that's really important is real world application, authenticity to your practice as a health professions educator. So Education skills for real-world application are underpinned by theory and evidence. Learners can tailor module choices. So when you sign up for the programme, you can choose what modules to do to meet their own learning needs, with options to develop a broad skill set or pursue a post-enrolment specialism in assessment, in leadership, or in medical education. So as I said, it's flexible. It's an online 5-year flexible modular pathway, which means you have up to 5 years to complete as many modules as you like, but from either a certificate all the way through to a master's. Although I think if you, yeah, I mean, you basically kind of build your modules as you go in terms of how many credits you want to accrue. It's open to international learners as well as UK learners because of its online delivery. And we absolutely encourage people from any discipline in healthcare who would like to enrol. So it's very much an interprofessional learning environment. And education in academia is very much a kind of a very broad discipline. There's a lot of education, healthcare, and academic disciplines that we draw on. So education typically draws on literature from psychology, from education, from the social sciences, from anthropology even. And also there's now a very established tradition of research and evidence and theory, specifically in healthcare disciplines for education. So there's a really wide base of absolutely fascinating literature that we can't wait to support you to get your hands on and engage and use to empower you in your practice. And the programme is also designed in conjunction with learners. So the really crucial bit is the fees. So the fees for 26 to 27 academic year, so that would be if you sign up now to start in September 2026, a 15 credit module, which most of the modules are, will cost £1,208. And those are the fees for a 30 credit module in the dissertation and report, which is 60 credits, but I won't read all those numbers out. The thing to say is actually every academic year you choose how many modules you want to do, you sign up for those modules and you pay as you go. So you don't have to pay for the whole masters all at once up front. If you're self-funding, which many of our students are, you can actually, whatever that fee is for your year, for how many modules you've signed up for, you can pay that in 3 installments. So there's support there in terms of getting those fees paid. In terms of staggering them over 3 installments. And if you're an international student, you won't pay elevated fees compared to the home students because we recognise that everybody is accessing the course in the same way. So the home and international students pay the same fees. And finally, I think before I hand over to Kerry, the structure of the EHP programme. So every student must complete a core 30 credit foundations module in their first 2 terms. We hope that this allows people to have a sense of cohort, people that they start their journey with and get to know on those first 2 modules to create belonging and community, which, as we said, are really important to us. But also it provides a common grounding in educational theory for you then to build on as you do the modules that you choose. You can choose to do a general pathway, so you can then subsequently choose any module you like, or you can choose to get a specialism in medical education, in leadership or assessment, which means there are certain prerequisite modules that you must do. And for anyone continuing to the final year to do their final year research project, they must do the prerequisite research module, which adds another layer of one more mandatory module into the programme structure. Oh, sorry, handing over to Becky, not Kerry.
All right. Okay, thank you very much for that, Miranda. So obviously Miranda's given you that kind of overview of the programme and how it's going to operate. And as she mentioned, it is incredibly flexible and but you can choose if you want to take different pathways through the programme. And it is a master's in education for health professionals, but you can choose if you want, and you don't have to decide at the outset, but you can choose to kind of jump off at earlier points and not go all the way through to the master's. So if you want to just do 60 credits, then that means you could leave with a postgraduate certificate in education for health professionals, or you could do 120 credits. And that would give you a postgraduate diploma in education for health professionals, or you do the full 180 and that gives you the master's. And like I said, you don't have to decide before you start, you actually sign up for the master's, but if you want to kind of exit along the way, then you are welcome to do so. So next slide, please. Thank you. Right. So this is what it looks like in terms of breaking it down into those different qualifications. So Miranda's already said that there is a compulsory foundation module that everyone has to do. And that's the first module that you have to do when you join the programme. And it's 30 credits, so it's a double-weighted module in Foundations of Learning, Teaching and Assessment. So as the name says, this is about giving you the absolutely essential foundations that you need in order to be able to go on and study other modules on the programme. And it's kind of quite wide-ranging because it is giving you that whole base. So understanding what learning is, thinking about what teaching is, and obviously assessment as well. Kerry is going to be, in a bit, she's going to be talking about the different modules you can do. So here, this is just done in terms of options or not options. So if you wanted to just do, or if you decide to just do the postgraduate certificate, you would do the Foundations 30 credit module, and then you could choose 2 optional modules. And we've got a number of different modules that, as I said, Kerry will show you, and you could do any 2 of those and then graduate with a postgraduate certificate. If you decided you wanted to do the postgraduate diploma, that's actually 120 credits. So you would be studying an additional 6 15 credit modules in addition to the Foundations module. If you decided, though, you want to do the full masters, the number of optional modules would actually drop to 5 because you would have to do conducting educational research. That is a prerequisite for doing the actual master's year dissertational report because it equips you with the skills to undertake postgraduate research. Now, you can do that module even if you're just doing the PG Cert or the PG Dip, but you don't have to, but it is a compulsory module for doing the masters, and therefore you only get to choose 5 optional modules. Okay, and that then with the dissertational report, because that is a big module that takes a whole year to do, that's worth 60 credits, and then that would give you the 180 credits you need for the full masters. So that's the kind of structure. But then, as Miranda's already alluded to, we have what are called post-enrollment specialisms. So you have the choice to either take a kind of general pathway or actually to choose a kind of slightly more specialised pathway just to focus on things that are of particular interest to you. And that is then reflected in the title of the award that you are given. And it's important to note that these post-enrollment specialisms only apply if you're doing the full masters. So they are not applicable if you jump off at the certificate or the diploma stage. They only apply to the full masters. So next slide, please, Miranda. So you can choose to graduate with the Masters in Education for Health Professionals, brackets, medical education. Okay, and if you want that post-enrollment specialism, having done the foundations, and then you've got your 5 optional modules, but 2 of those will have to be advanced clinical education and supervising health professionals, because those are seen in terms of their content as being particularly geared towards people who are working with doctors, so who are conducting medical education. So you don't have to be a doctor to do this, to have this post-enrollment specialism, but you must be working and teaching doctors. Okay.
Or undergraduate medical students.
Or undergraduate medical students, thank you for that. So you do those 2. Because you're doing the full masters, you have to do conducting educational research, because that, if you remember, is the prerequisite, but you will still have a choice of 3 modules. And it's important that your dissertation or report is on a topic related to medical education. And that would mean that when you graduated, you'd have the Masters in Education for Health Professionals with that post-enrollment specialism in brackets afterwards, medical education. So if that's something you feel is really important to you and you want to have that in your CV, that would be the pathway you take. But we do also offer a post-enrollment specialism in leadership. So people who are very interested in leadership in health professions education. So it's it's educational leadership we're focusing on here. So once again, you would do the foundations. You have to do conducting educational research as your prerequisite module for the Masters. You get 3 options, but then you would have to take leadership for healthcare educators and leading change for quality improvement in education. Those are our 2 modules which focus on leadership. And your dissertation or report would have to focus on an aspect of educational leadership. And then that gives you the post-enrollment specialism of leadership. And then the final post-enrollment specialism that we offer is assessment. Okay, so once again, you've done your foundation module, you've got your optional 3 options, you've got your conducting educational research, and then you would choose to do curriculum design and development and advanced assessment. Once again, assessment would have to be the focus of your dissertation or report, and that would then give you that post-enrollment specialism of assessment. So these are things that are kind of obviously worth thinking about. You don't have to think about them straight away, and that actually, you know, doing that foundations program might be a helpful one, because you might find you're suddenly very interested in assessment and you think, oh, I really want to pursue this further and do more about this. Also, there's no reason why you can't do that, for example, with assessment, those 2 optional modules, but then write your dissertation or report on a different topic, because you don't want to, you're not particularly interested in having the post-enrollment specialism of assessment. So it's not foisted upon you if you take those optional modules. It is still an option for you. And I'm going to hand over to Kerry now to talk more about those individual modules.
Thanks, Becky. So it might all sound very confusing at the moment, but the main message, I think, is that you've got a lot of choice and you don't have to decide at the outset. So bear with us while we go through what your options are. So this is a list of all of our modules. We start off, as Becky and Miranda have mentioned, with the foundations module. So that's 30 credits worth, and it runs over the first 2 terms of your first year. So we have 3 terms per year, and the first 2 of those will be taken up with foundations of learning, teaching, and assessment. Then there are various other options. So we've got advanced clinical education and supervising health professionals, which, Miranda, would you mind just clicking? Those ones are part of the medical education post-enrollment specialism. And then if we click down to the next ones, we've got leadership for healthcare educators, leading change for quality improvement in education, which Becky has just mentioned, and those are the leadership ones, but you can take them even if you're not doing that post-enrollment specialism. And then the next 2 down, curriculum design and development and advanced assessment, are part of our assessment pathway. But again, you can take them as optional modules, even if you're doing something different. And then we've got a couple at the bottom that aren't part of a post-enrollment specialism, but we think they'll be particularly of interest to lots of people. And that's research-informed education and simulation in healthcare. So those you might want to take alongside either a general pathway, or if you're doing one of the post-enrollment specialisms. And then we've got the next one in bold, conducting educational research is our prerequisite. So that prepares you well for the dissertational report. And then we've got our final 60 credit module, which is the dissertation or report. So those are all of the options. And if you're just doing a general pathway, you can pick and choose from pretty much any of those. So lots of choice, and you will have, you know, plenty of advice from people like your personal academic tutor along the way to help you decide which ones you might want to do. So if we move on to the next slide, this just tells you a little bit about how the modules actually work. So when you've chosen and signed up for something, you'll find that the first week is very much an introduction week. And then that carries on into, that's part of the first teaching block. So weeks 1 to 4 are your first teaching block, where you will have your virtual classroom sessions, so the synchronous sessions. You'll have learning activities to do that might be in class, or doing them asynchronously on Moodle. So you might have discussion forums and other ways of sharing information. And so that's your first active teaching block. Then, and this has been put in because our current students have requested it as something that's really useful to people. Week 5 is called Reading Week. That's a very UK university term, but it's essentially what it means is you've got a week where there's no scheduled teaching, And you can use that as a chance to catch up and consolidate what you've been learning in your first 4 weeks. So it's a bit of breathing space. Then we move into the second teaching block. So weeks 6 to 9, you'll get more teaching, more content, more activities to do with people. And that's generally where you'll also find that we have some of the formative assessments. So those are assessments that will help you with your learning and look at where you might want to work on things ready for the summative one. So a formative assessment is doesn't count towards your final mark. It's done for your learning and for feedback to help you improve. Then we move into weeks 10 to 11, which are, again, you don't have any active teaching in those weeks, and we don't set any learning activities, but it's a chance for you to review everything, consolidate your learning, and there'll be opportunities where if you want to post questions to your tutors, or you might find that the tutors put on a session where they say, right, you can come along and we'll troubleshoot with people if there's anything that you want to ask about. So that's, again, it's a chance to sort of revise everything. And then as we move into week 12, that's your assessment week. And we'll talk a little bit more about the different types of assessments in a moment. So if we move on to the next slide, these are the different ways that you can learn on your modules. And we've mentioned some of these already. So you'll have journals and books to read. There's no getting away from reading. It is a master's course. So, you know, there is going to be some stuff to read. But we also supplement that with other ways of learning as well. So we make a lot of use of videos and podcasts. There's some fantastic health education podcasts out there. So you'll also have access to those. As we've mentioned, you have your live online classroom sessions where you're working with one another and getting feedback in real time from your tutors. We have discussion forums on Moodle, which is the platform that we use. And those are essentially where you can post some information. It might be a bit of writing, it might be a video that you upload, and then you've got people will comment on that and reply, so you can keep that conversation going. You may well be making things collaboratively with your peers or doing some kind of pair or group work activities. And there'll be plenty of chances for you to give one another feedback through the course as well. So it's very much a sort of collaborative approach to learning. It's not an isolated distance learning course that you work through at your own pace. It's very much something that we work through together. Okay, so if we move on.
I was just going to add, actually, Kerry, if
Please.
people balk at the idea of the reading, I suppose one thing that's really important to say about being a UCL student is you have access to some fantastic support resources if reading is not for you. So definitely we expect people to experience the content of the book chapters and journal articles, but we have a fantastic digital accessibility team and very extensive resources to help people engage with written literature in ways that suit their diverse needs for learning. I won't say lots more because we've not got much time, but rest assured there is all sorts of digital technology and software available to you for support with that. If reading is not your bag, we totally get it.
So it's worth just mentioning the time requirement because I think people can sometimes worry that it's either going to take so much of their time or they feel like they could probably squeeze it into a few spare hours. You do need to think about time. You do need to have enough time to dedicate to the study. And so it works out at about 12.5 hours per week per 15 credits. And obviously you may find that you have more one week and less another. You can juggle it a bit depending on what your other commitments are. But if you were to average it out across the whole term, it works out as about 12.5 hours a week. And so that includes everything. So that's if you're doing a virtual classroom activity, if you're reading something, if you're posting on a learning activity, and also just some time in there built in to think and digest and reflect. So it's not kind of 12.5 hours of solid writing. That includes everything. And that includes things like your assessment preparation as well. But as a ballpark figure, that's what you're going to need each week. And then when we talk about assessment, so we have the formative assessments that's going on throughout your module. And those are the module learning activities, which you will get peer and tutor feedback on, and you'll get a chance to practice for your summative assignments. And the summative assignments include things like written assignments. Now, not all of those are traditional critical writing essays. There are a couple of those in there, but written assignments can also include things like imagine you're writing an opinion piece for a journal, or you can see down at the bottom we've got blogs and vlogs. So one of your written assignments might be a blog post. So that's testing how you can communicate ideas to other healthcare professionals as well. We aim to make our assessments as authentic and useful as possible, and we also want to make them diverse. So we've moved away from just having written assignments, and we've brought in other things. So you will also do things like oral presentations, so the sorts of things that you might do as a short communication at a conference. And we encourage people, if they've got something that's relevant to a conference, to then also take those to a conference. So hopefully you can get sort of, a double win for doing those. Similarly, one of the modules, the curriculum design and development module, is assessed through an academic poster. So you produce a digital poster and then you'll present that as part of your assignment, and we would support you in trying to then take that to relevant education conferences. Some of them include things like videos that you pre-record. It might be a presentation, it might be some kind of teaching resource that you can then use with your learners. And so those are also included as part of your summative assignment or your coursework. And all of the modules have now a split, so you don't have just one assignment per module. So most of the modules have an 80-20 split, where you'll either have 80% weighting being a written assignment and then 20 as an oral presentation, or vice versa. And the foundations module and the curriculum development module have a 50-50 split across them. So foundations, you'll have, in fact, foundations is even more complicated because you've got some of your stuff will be written, some of it will be presentation, and it's done across the 2 terms. The curriculum development one is 50% the actual poster that you produce and 50% your presentation of it. So lots of different types of assessment, again, to try and represent the different ways that people might want to show what they've learned. Okay, if we move on, if it all sounds a bit overwhelming, there is support available, and UCL is fantastic for this. So everybody will get their own personal academic tutor. You will be assigned to somebody at the beginning. They're all people who work on the course, and so we know how the course works, and your personal academic tutor is really well placed to support you. You'll be offered a meeting at least once a year. Because it's a flexible modular program, we know that not everybody will be taking modules every single year, but you'll still be offered the opportunity to check in with your personal academic tutor and see how you're going. And then you can also book in with people as and when you might like to have a conversation with them. And there's all sorts of things you can talk about, whether it's academic writing support, whether there's something that's more pastoral, maybe there's other things going on in your life and you think you might need to ask for an extension to an assignment. Again, your personal academic tutor can support you with that. We've also got the Academic Communication Centre, and that's very much around support with your academic output. So if you're lots of that, they do lots of writing support, but they also help people with things like presentations, making posters, that kind of thing. So they have sessions that you can join, or they've got a really good website that you can look at, or sometimes people even book one-to-ones with them. So they're there for support as well. And if English isn't your first language, there's also specific support for academic English writing for people who may not have it as a first language. So there's extra support there as well. If it's more of a pastoral thing, if there's other stuff going on in your life and you feel like you need some additional support, or if you have a disability or a specific learning difference, particularly things like neurodivergence, then there's the student support and wellbeing team. And again, they're fantastic for access. And it's one of those times when actually being a student can be an advantage for getting a diagnosis for something like ADHD, for example, because you can actually access additional support and diagnostics as a student than you might be able to outside of that. So they're really useful as well. And we have a thing called Ask UCL, which is if you type in Ask UCL into the computer, it brings up a page. You can ask your question and it will tell you which service is best suited to you. And then there's also, as part of the student union, and there are dedicated postgraduate student union groups as well, but there's also an online student society. So lots of online learners think, well, I can't really get involved in all the student union stuff because that's just for people who are on campus. But there's an online student society, and they organise quizzes and social nights and various things all online. So don't feel that you can't get involved in the student life side of things as well. Okay, if we move on to the next slide. So hopefully that's made you think, yes, I really want to apply for this programme. So this is how you do it. So what you do is you apply via the UCL graduate prospectus, and we'll send out links for these things. Emiliana, I'm sure, can help us with the links for that. There is one single form. So whether you want to do a PG Cert, diploma or master's, or whether you don't yet know which level you want to finish on, it's just the same form. And as Becky mentioned earlier, you can kind of dip out when you feel like you've reached enough credits for what you want. There's a £90 application fee, and the application deadline is the 28th of August this year. So you've got a little while to think about it and to apply. And if you have questions in the meantime, then I'm very happy for Emiliana to share my email address. I'm the graduate admissions tutor, and I'm very happy to have meetings with people and conversations if you have any particular questions. We do ask for an academic reference. It doesn't necessarily have to be from an academic per se. If you've got somebody, for example, who is some kind of preceptor or mentor or educational supervisor for you, it's really just some things that they can talk about, whether you've done any teaching or what your organizational skills and your communication skills are like. So and if you haven't got anybody that you think is remotely academic, it can be a clinical reference, but it's more useful if it's academic. And if you are coming to us having already done some master's level, level 7 learning, whether that's a full postgraduate certificate or just a module here or there, we can do recognition of prior learning. And if we go to the next slide, I'll explain a bit more about that. So this is if you've done something that you think might be able to be counted towards this programme. For example, if we get quite a few students who've done postgraduate certificates somewhere else, and then they want to come and join our programme for sort of diploma level. It has to be applied for when you apply. We can't do them in retrospect. So please, if you think you might want to do recognition of prior learning, do apply for it when you apply. If you've already filled in the application form and you haven't looked at RPEL and you want to do it, that's fine. You can still contact us at this stage. But once you're enrolled, we can't do it in retrospect. So you need to let the admissions team know, and there's a form to fill in. And then what will happen is that will come to me as graduate admissions tutor. And I will then need to see what you've done previously and have a chat with you about how it matches to our modules, so we can work out which modules we can exempt you from doing. So the best thing to do is fill in the form and book an appointment with me to have a discussion about it. Right, I think that's handing over to Becky again at this last point.
It is, yes. So thank you, Kerry. And this is just to plug the fact that if you are in the UK and within easy reach of London, then if you actually want to come and meet a couple of people, it won't be me, but a couple of people in person and actually see UCL, even though you'll be studying online, you'll be part of the UCL community. So we do have, there's a Life and Medical Sciences postgraduate open evening, Wednesday, the 10th of June. So I think that might be 3 weeks time. And that's between 5 and 8 o'clock at UCL, via the UCL gates on Gower Street in central London. So that's just to kind of plug that. And like I said, if you then want to come and actually talk in person and find out a bit more about the programme, then you're very welcome to do so.
And I'll be there. I can meet you and answer any questions.
There you go. Yep. So Miranda will be there. So that's great. And then I think we've got a couple of things on the final slide. Yes, so there are these 2 QR codes here. So if you would like more info, so thank you. So Emiliana has just posted a link in the chat about the open evening on the 10th of June. But we've also got these QR codes here which takes you through to the UCL website and also to our digital brochure. There's also an email address there as well if you have any more kind of any questions and so on. So you might want to take a kind of picture of that now so that if you suddenly think of a question tomorrow, you know who to send it to. And I'm not sure if there's anything on the next slide. No, that is the end. Oh, well, no, that's just an invitation if there are any questions. So, yes, it's really just opening it up now to either post in the chat, in the Q&A in the chat, or to put your hand up if you would like to ask a question, and then we can invite you to unmute. Do appreciate you've had a lot of information, so it may take a bit of time to process it, which is why that email can be useful if you kind of think of something kind of later on that you want to ask. Maybe we've answered all your questions.
Or if you've got a question and it's private, there's the
Yeah.
email there, but you can drop us an email and have an email exchange or book in a one-to-one meeting with Kerry, as she's mentioned. And that's, I think, important for anyone watching this. I think the recording is going to go up, isn't it, on the webpage? So people might be watching this back as a recording and might have some questions. And we're very, very happy to offer you a one-to-one meeting to discuss how the programme could suit your needs and how we can support you to navigate your way through it and what would be best to apply for. And we're also happy to give any information about the stuff that we've said about the application form and support you with the application as well. Okay, so I can see a question. Thank you. I hope you'll be able to share the full recording. Absolutely, we'll share the full recording. Emiliana has kindly said that it's going to go onto the Faculty of Medical Sciences website. I can't tell you exactly where actually or how to find it, but I imagine a link will come out after via email with the recording, the link to the website with the recording to anybody who had signed up for the event. But we really appreciate you listening to us and taking the time to come along, and I hope it's been helpful. Yeah, that's great. Emiliana, thank you, has said we'll share the full recording in the next couple of days. So you can go back, and if anything's piqued your interest, go back and watch that and back again and have a look at those slides.
It's probably also just worth mentioning that obviously we gave you a lot of information about the names of the modules, but not really about what was in them. If you look at the QR code that takes you through to the digital brochure, or if you go onto our prospectus page, there's also links to the modules there and the details. But the digital brochure has all the details about fees and about the different module breakdowns and what exactly is in them and what kind of assessments they've got. So if you want sort of more granular detail, then it's all in there as well.
Oh, fantastic. I can see Emiliana's actually put the web page of where the recording will be posted. Brilliant. Well, it does look like we've got no more questions. Which means I think in that case we will say thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks to Becky and Kerry as well. And thank you very much to Emiliana for hosting us. We will look forward to hearing from you via email if you've got any questions, if you've watched this recording and you'd like to reach out to us. Very much looking forward to hearing from you. And we'll draw it to a close there. Thank you.
Yeah, and hopefully see some of you online in the autumn. So.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.